At 8:14 on Saturday night, my 9-year-old grandson ran into my arms behind a velvet curtain while 600 people in the ballroom applauded a video explaining that he could no longer stand. Ben hit me with enough force to knock one of my shoes loose. "Grandma," he whispered into my coat, "please don't let Mom put me back in the chair." On the other side of the curtain, his mother was crying beneath a spotlight. Serena Avery had always been able to cry beautifully. Her tears arrived one at a time, never disturbed her makeup, and appeared to understand where the cameras were. "My brave little boy," she told the audience, "has taught our family that courage is not measured in steps." The crowd rose. A 10-foot screen showed Ben in a wheelchair beneath the words "Walk with Ben." Donors held glowing bracelets. A string quartet played something expensive and sad. 2 television crews aimed their cameras at the stage. Behind the curtain, Ben was standing on both feet. He wore a navy suit, white sneakers, and the terrified expression of a child who had practiced a lie longer than multiplication. "My name is Helen Avery. I was 68 years old, a retired middle school principal, and a woman who had spent 31 years recognizing guilt before children learned to hide it behind complete sentences." Ben was not pretending to be frightened. He was frightened of being seen standing. I held his shoulders. "Does it hurt?" "No." "Are you dizzy?" "No." "Who told you to use the chair tonight?" His eyes moved toward the curtain. That was answer enough. I had not seen Ben for 4 months. Serena said my questions upset him. My son Michael said the family needed a protected healing environment, a phrase that meant I was permitted to watch their videos but not enter their house. Every video showed Ben weaker. Every fundraiser grew larger. Every time I asked to speak with his doctor, Serena told the internet that older relatives often struggle to accept invisible illness. Then she blocked my number. I had come to the gala because my granddaughter Lucy mailed me a ticket without a return address. She was 16, quiet in the careful way children become quiet when adults turn every reaction into content. The ticket included a note. "Come early. Wait near the gold curtain. Do not trust the program." I assumed the program meant the printed schedule. With Lucy, it usually meant the adults. Ben tightened his grip on me. "Mom says tonight is the last time." "The last time for what?" "The chair. After the big surprise, I can walk again." I heard the words, but my mind refused to arrange them. "What big surprise?" He looked toward the stage where Serena was explaining that an anonymous donor had funded an experimental rehabilitation program. There was no anonymous donor. There was no new rehabilitation program. The miracle had already happened months earlier, quietly, in a clinic and a school gym in a house where cameras recorded everything except the truth. Before I could ask another question, the curtain opened. Serena stood there in a silver gown. Her face changed when she saw Ben on his feet. Not surprise. Calculation. She crossed the distance between us and pressed one hand against his back. "Sweetheart," she said, "you know you are not cleared to stand alone." Ben's body folded inward. "I'm okay." "You could fall." "I don't fall anymore." Serena's smile remained in place, but her eyes found mine. "You should not be here, Helen." "I had a ticket." "You were asked to respect our boundaries." "Your boundary just ran into me." A stage assistant appeared with Ben's wheelchair. Serena guided him toward it. He resisted for half a second. Then he sat. I had seen that kind of surrender in children called to the principal's office for something an adult had done. Michael came through the curtain wearing a tuxedo and a headset microphone. He looked older than he had 4 months earlier. My son had my late husband's brown eyes and his habit of touching his wedding ring when he wanted a conversation to end. He touched it now. "Mom, please leave quietly. Ben says he can walk. Ben has good minutes and bad minutes. He says tonight is the last night in the chair." Serena answered before Michael could. "He is confused by the event schedule." Ben stared at his shoes. I looked at my son. "Is he confused?" Michael's hand remained on his ring. The ballroom host announced that a special family message would begin in 2 minutes. Serena lowered her voice. "If you make a scene, you will terrify him. He is already terrified. Because you cornered him. He ran to me." Serena turned to the stage assistant. "Get security." Then Lucy appeared. She wore a pale blue dress and carried a gold medal on a ribbon. Her face was composed, but she was breathing too quickly. "Grandma forgot this," she said. "I have never won a medal. You are starting now." She placed it in my hand and closed my fingers around it. Her lips barely moved. "The back unscrews." Serena looked at her. "What did you say?" "I said the clasp is loose." Security arrived before I could answer. 2 men in black suits asked me to accompany them to the lobby. I had escorted hundreds of students from assemblies. I recognized the posture, firm enough to communicate authority, gentle enough to avoid becoming the story. Serena was already becoming the story. She rolled Ben through the curtain while Michael followed. Lucy remained beside me. Then Serena stopped and turned. "Helen," she said loudly enough for nearby volunteers to hear, "after what you said in that recording, you are fortunate we allowed you in the building at all." "What recording?" The ballroom lights dimmed. The screen changed. My own voice came through the speakers. "Ben is not sick. Serena is using him. If I have to take him away from her, I will." The words sounded like me. They were built from my voice. But I had never spoken that sentence. The audience gasped. Serena stepped onto the stage, one hand on Ben's wheelchair. "This," she said, "is why our family has made the painful decision to protect Ben from someone we once trusted." Security guided me toward the lobby while strangers stared. Some raised phones. One woman whispered, "That's the grandmother." As though grandmother had become a criminal category. Lucy walked beside us until Serena called her name. She stopped. I looked back. My granddaughter did not cry. She simply touched 2 fingers to the medal in my hand. I closed my fist around it. By midnight, I would watch raw footage of Ben running, climbing stairs, and being told to limp when a camera turned on. By morning, I would learn that nearly $4 million donated for his care had passed through companies controlled by my son and daughter-in-law. And before the following Saturday, Serena would invite me onto a live television special to apologize for doubting her. She believed she had already edited the ending. She had forgotten that 16-year-old girls know where families hide the uncut footage. Security left me beneath the hotel's glass awning in cold rain. My purse contained a program, a dead phone battery, 1 loose shoe, and a gold medal I had not earned. The medal read "Brighter Miles Foundation, Voice of Courage." I twisted the back. A tiny memory card fell into my palm. Taped beneath it was a piece of paper no larger than a postage stamp. Lucy had written 3 words. Watch the rehearsals. Daphne Ross picked me up 20 minutes later in a yellow car that looked like a lemon with insurance. Daphne had been my best friend since 1981, when she covered a school board scandal and I accidentally locked her in the teacher's lounge because I mistook her for a cigarette salesperson. She spent 40 years as an investigative reporter. Retirement had not softened her. It had merely removed editors. She looked at my bare left foot. "Did the charity take your shoe?" "I lost it when Ben ran into me." "Ben ran?" "Yes." She turned off the windshield wipers even though it was raining. Then she turned them back on. "Start again," she said. I told her everything while she drove to her house. Daphne lived above an old print shop in a neighborhood where every building had been converted into either apartments or coffee. Her kitchen contained 2 laptops, 4 newspapers, 3 legal pads, and a bowl of fruit nobody had trusted since Easter. She inserted the memory card into an adapter. There were 43 video files. The first showed Ben in a bright rehearsal room 6 months earlier. He stood between parallel rails while a physical therapist walked beside him. "Excellent," the therapist said. "No support this time." Ben crossed the room. Serena's voice came from behind the camera. "Can we do another where he looks less confident?" The therapist turned. "This is not a film set." The clip ended. The second file showed Ben walking through his kitchen without assistance. He carried a bowl of cereal, stepped over the family dog, and danced when he thought nobody watched. A date stamp showed 5 months earlier. The public videos from that week showed him unable to lift 1 foot. In the third rehearsal, Serena sat beside him on a white couch. "When I ask what you miss most," she said, "you say running with Grandpa." "My grandpa is dead." "I know, baby. That is why it is emotional." "I miss recess." "Recess is not specific enough." "I miss Grandma." Serena stopped smiling. "We are not mentioning Grandma." The file shook, as though the hidden camera had been moved. Lucy's whisper came from behind it. "Keep recording." Daphne paused the video. "You need a lawyer." "I need my grandchildren." "You need both. The lawyer's easier to schedule." We kept watching. Some clips were ordinary: makeup tests, lighting rehearsals, sponsor messages. Others showed Serena coaching Ben to answer questions about pain, weakness, and fear. She never told him to say he hurt when he did not. She did something more careful. She asked the same question until he produced the version she wanted. "How tired are you today?" "I'm not tired." "Think about after therapy." "I was hungry." "Think about the hard days." "I had a hard day Tuesday." "So today you feel weak like Tuesday?" "I guess." "Perfect. Say it looking at me." Michael appeared in several recordings. Sometimes he checked lights. Sometimes he corrected donation totals. Once he told Serena they should end the campaign because Ben's improvement was becoming impossible to hide. She answered, "We end it with a miracle, not an apology." "The specialists will know." The specialists signed confidentiality agreements. They did not sign lies. They do not have to lie. They only have to say treatment helped. Michael sat down. "We already used too much of the foundation money." "How much is too much?" "Enough that ending now triggers questions." Serena walked out of frame. Her voice returned. Then we give them an answer people prefer. Hope. Daphne closed the laptop. That is not hope. I know. That is a television finale wearing a child. I stared at the black screen. 4 months earlier, I had asked Michael why Ben's school no longer allowed me to pick him up. My son said strangers had begun approaching the family and they needed tighter security. I believed him because parents had become strange around famous children. They wanted photographs, prayers, proof of closeness to suffering. I did not understand that I was the person being kept away. Daphne reopened the files. The final clip was recorded 3 days earlier in a blue room. A production board listed the schedule for the following Saturday. Walk with Ben Live Special. 8 o'clock, Family Film. 8:19, Helen Apology. 8:27, Treatment Reveal. 8:34, First Steps. 8:41, Foundation Expansion. My name sat between Family Film and Miracle. Daphne leaned toward the screen. You have an apology scheduled? Apparently I am very organized when manipulated. The video continued. Serena stood on a tape mark while a director explained the blocking. Ben begins in the chair. Helen apologizes. Michael introduces the anonymous donor. We roll the treatment montage. Ben stands on the music cue and walks to Serena. What if he goes to his grandmother? Someone asked. Serena's expression did not change. Helen will not be near the stage. Michael said, she may refuse to come. She will come if she believes it is the only way to see him. The director asked about the press statement accusing me of attempted interference. Release it Monday, Serena said. After the special, nobody will care. The miracle becomes the headline. The clip ended. Then Daphne said, they are planning his first steps for television even though he has been walking for months. Yes. And they scheduled your humiliation before the commercial break. Yes. That is unnecessarily tidy. I removed the metal ribbon from my wrist. What do we do? Daphne held out her hand. We make copies before anyone turns up with a court order and excellent hair. At 1:22, an email arrived from Serena's attorney. It demanded the return of stolen foundation property and warned that any distribution of private medical footage would violate Ben's rights. Daphne read it twice. They moved quickly. Lucy must have been discovered. The thought entered my chest like cold water. I called Michael. He answered on the 4th ring. Where is Lucy? Home. Is she safe? What did she give you? Is she safe? She is our daughter. That was not an answer. He lowered his voice. Mom, you do not understand the pressure we are under. I understand Ben can walk. Silence. Then, he is improving. He has been improving for months. Recovery is not linear. Neither is dishonesty, apparently. Yours has several departments. He inhaled sharply. Serena thinks Lucy copied private production footage. Did she? You know she did. I know your son asked me not to put him back in a wheelchair. He needs it in crowded settings. He needed it on stage because your schedule says first steps at 8:34. My son stopped breathing for a moment. I had given away more than Daphne wanted me to reveal. She drew one finger across her throat. I turned away. Michael said, listen to me. The foundation has commitments. Families rely on us. Staff rely on us. We are launching a national mobility grant program next week. With money raised by lying about them? With money raised because people care about him. Do they know he recovered? They know he is fighting. That is not an answer. It is more complicated than you think. Complicated is what people call a lie after it earns payroll. His voice broke. We were going to fix everything after the special. I closed my eyes. There are sentences parents hear twice, once as words, and once as evidence of who their child has become. What did you spend? I asked. Mom. How much? I cannot discuss finances with you. You have discussed my sanity with 600 strangers. He said nothing. I softened my voice, not because he deserved softness, but because anger makes frightened people hide behind the nearest person. Michael, bring the children to me tonight. I cannot. Then let me speak to them. Not now. Why? Because Serena is handling Lucy. The old principal inside me stood up. What does handling mean? She took her phone. They are talking. Put Lucy on. I said not now. Daphne was already writing a name on a legal pad. Nadine Brooks, Family Law. I said, if Lucy is punished for telling the truth, I will make every call I know how to make. Michael's voice hardened. If you release those videos, you could destroy Ben's future. No. I may destroy the future you sold using his face. He ended the call. Daphne dialed Nadine. Nadine Brooks answered at 1:37 in the morning with the alertness of a woman who had either never slept or built dreams in 6-minute increments. She had practiced family law for 35 years and wore bright scarves in court because, she said, judges should remember which attorney warned them. We sent her the least sensitive clips and described the rest. Do not publish medical footage, she said. Do not contact sponsors. Do not go to their house. Preserve everything. We need child protection authorities, financial investigators, and a court order that does not look like revenge from an angry grandmother. I am an angry grandmother. Be one privately. Publicly, become a filing cabinet. By morning, Serena had obtained a temporary no-contact order, with a hearing set for Friday. Daphne entered carrying coffee in a cardboard box. We had the beginning. Inside were printed screenshots from the rehearsal footage. One showed a production budget on a wall monitor. At the bottom, almost hidden by glare, were vendor payments. Silver Kite Story Lab, $640,000. Avery Family Wellness, $410,000. Brighter Miles Housing, $780,000. The Foundation's public reports listed all three as program services. Daphne had searched state business records. Silver Kite Story Lab belonged to Serena's brother. Avery Family Wellness belonged to Michael. Brighter Miles Housing was registered to a holding company that owned the family's new lake house. I stared at the numbers. The lake house was on Serena's channel. She said a sponsor donated it as a recovery retreat. The sponsor donated furniture, Daphne said. The foundation appears to have bought the building. Nadine called Arun Mehta, a non-profit auditor who confirmed that the vendor pattern demanded investigation. A young man stood outside wearing a rain jacket and carrying a portable hard drive. He looked over both shoulders before entering. I'm Noah Kim, he said. I edit Serena's videos. Nadine closed the door. How did you find us? Lucy gave me Mrs. Ross's address last month. Daphne looked pleased. I am becoming an emergency contact for teenagers with evidence. Noah was 24 and had joined Brighter Miles because his younger sister used mobility equipment. He believed the foundation's original mission. At first, it paid for transportation, therapy scholarships, and home modifications for real families. Then sponsors arrived. The videos became episodes. Episodes required cliffhangers. Ben's improvement became a production problem. Noah opened the hard drive. I kept project backups because Serena orders old timelines deleted after release. I thought it was normal brand management. Then they started changing dates. He showed us editing timelines where clips recorded months apart were presented as consecutive days. Audio from my phone calls had been cut into a false confession. Serena's team had fed hours of my public school speeches, interviews, and voicemail messages into voice modeling software. The sentence played at the gala had been assembled digitally, then mixed with real background noise from my kitchen. Daphne listened twice. Can you prove it? The project file contains the generated voice track. He clicked a folder. Helen _final _v7 use this. I had been framed by a file name with confidence issues. Noah also had internal messages. Michael approved payment transfers. Serena approved scripts. Her brother invoiced the foundation for documentary development, social strategy, and emotional arc consulting. What is emotional arc consulting? Nadine asked. Noah looked embarrassed. Deciding when viewers should cry. Daphne pointed at me. Apparently Helen's arc includes footwear loss. The most important file was a contract with Northlight Stream, a documentary platform. Northlight would pay Serena and Michael $2 million for exclusive rights to Ben's recovery story, including the live miracle reveal. The contract required that the public believe Ben remained unable to walk before the broadcast. If the truth emerged early, Northlight could cancel and demand repayment of a $700,000 advance. Arun found the advance in the foundation's accounts. It had been recorded as a program grant. Michael and Serena had used it to pay debt on the lake house, production costs, and a private school deposit for Lucy. Lucy does not want private school, I said. Noah nodded. She found an email. They plan to send her to a boarding program after the live special. Serena says she is oppositional. My hand tightened around the edge of the table. What happened last night? She was locked out of the family accounts and her bedroom door alarm was turned on. Nadine looked at him sharply. Alarm? Not locked. It alerts Serena if Lucy leaves at night. The distinction did not comfort me. Noah continued. Lucy hid the card in the metal because all bags were being checked. She asked me to hold this backup if she could not get out. Can you contact her? She sent one message through a school group chat this morning. He showed us. They know about Grandma. Dad says I broke the family. Ben thinks the live show will make everything normal. Do not let them rehearse him alone. Nadine began making calls. That evening, Serena posted a video titled When Family Becomes Unsafe. She sat beside Michael on a beige couch. Ben and Lucy were absent. Serena said I had stolen private medical footage and threatened their family. Michael said he loved me but could no longer ignore my behavior. Then he looked into the camera and repeated the sentence from his affidavit. My mother refuses to accept Ben's condition. I watched his left hand. He touched his wedding ring. Daphne paused the video. He looks ill. He looks guilty. Those conditions overlap. Comments multiplied beneath the video. Sponsors posted hearts. Followers offered prayers. A parenting magazine announced an article about grandparent boundary violations. The Truth had evidence. The Lie had a media kit. When Serena offered access to the children in exchange for a televised apology, investigators advised me to accept so they could document the deception live. I signed the appearance agreement on Wednesday. Serena called me within 10 minutes. Her voice was warm again. I knew you would choose family. I am choosing the children. That is what I mean. No, it is not. She ignored that. On Thursday, Nadine received the family's financial disclosures for the restraining order hearing. Buried inside was a medical summary Serena had submitted to prove Ben's vulnerability. It included a line from his rehabilitation physician. Patient ambulating independently in home and school settings. Wheelchair no longer medically required for routine mobility. The date was 5 months earlier. Serena had highlighted a different sentence about fatigue after prolonged activity. She had not forged the medical record. She had counted on nobody reading the whole page. Nadine smiled without pleasure. Courts are built on the dangerous belief that attachments will be ignored. The next page was a school note stating Ben had been asked to use the chair during public appearances because family security required predictable movement. Signed by Michael. That evening, Michael came to my house alone. He stood on the porch in the rain without an umbrella. For 1 second, I saw him at 12, waiting after soccer practice because he had forgotten I was picking him up from the other field. Then I saw the man who had signed the note. I let him inside. He did not sit. You need to cancel Saturday. Why? Serena knows Noah copied files. She knew that days ago. She thinks he gave them to investigators. Did he? Michael looked toward the window. You are going to get her arrested. No. Her actions may do that. You think that distinction matters to Ben? It will matter when he learns who made the choices. He loves his mother. So do I. The sentence surprised both of us. I continued. I do not love what she is doing. I do not love what you are doing. But love is not a receipt that cancels harm. Michael finally sat. He looked exhausted. It started after Ben got sick, he said. We were terrified. Insurance denied part of the therapy. Serena posted one video. People gave more than we needed. Then other families wrote to us. We helped them. We really did. I believe that. The foundation grew too fast. Staff, contracts, travel, sponsors. Serena said if we kept the audience, we could fund hundreds of children. And when Ben improved, we plan to announce it. When? He covered his face. After one more campaign. How many times did one more become one more? He did not answer. The lake house? I asked. It was supposed to be a retreat center. Is it? We filmed there. That is not the same thing. I know. The documentary advance? We used some to cover foundation debt. And some? Our mortgage. Lucy's school. Legal fees. You used money attached to Ben's false story to pay the lawyer who kept me from Ben. He began crying. I did not move toward him. A mother can ache for her son and still leave the distance he created intact. Help us stop it, I said. If the special collapses, Northlight demands the advance. The foundation closes. Employees lose jobs. Families lose grants. Then tell the truth and let an independent board save what can be saved. Serena will never agree. I did not ask what Serena would agree to. He wiped his face. You do not know what she is like when she thinks everything is being taken. The words settled heavily between us. Are the children afraid of her? No. Too quickly. Are you? He looked at me. His answer was not yes. It was not no. I came to warn you, he said. Warn me about what? She has another recording. Something about Dad. My husband, Robert, had been dead 3 years. He taught history, burned pancakes, and believed every household repair required a trip to the hardware store followed by another trip to return the wrong part. What about him? Serena found your old voicemails from when he was sick. She cut one where you said you wished it would end. The memory came back before I could stop it. Robert's last weeks were painful and confusing. One night, exhausted, I left Daphne a voicemail saying, I wish this would end. I hate watching him suffer. Serena planned to edit it into evidence that I wanted my husband dead. Michael watched my face. I told her not to use it. But you did not stop her. I am trying. No. Trying is an action, not a mood. He stood. At the door, I asked, will you tell the truth Saturday? He looked back. I do not know. Then Serena is not the only person choosing this. He left. Friday's restraining order hearing lasted 40 minutes. Serena appeared remotely from the broadcast studio. She wore cream-colored clothing and spoke softly. Her attorney described me as unstable, fixated, and dangerous to Ben's emotional health. Then Nadine introduced the unedited voice model project, the rehabilitation summary, and the rehearsal schedule listing my apology before Ben's staged first steps. The judge removed her glasses. Serena's attorney asked for time to review newly produced material. Nadine said, their own employee produced it. Their own filing contains the medical summary. Their own event schedule includes the deception. The judge dissolved the no-contact order and authorized a child advocate to facilitate immediate private conversations with Ben and Lucy. She referred the false audio evidence for investigation. Serena's face remained calm on the screen. Only her hand moved, tightening around a pen until it broke. After the hearing, I spoke to Lucy by video call from Nadine's office. A child advocate sat beside her. Lucy looked tired. Are you angry? She asked. At you? She nodded. I am proud of you and furious you had to do an adult's job. Her mouth trembled. Dad says the foundation will die because of me. The foundation's problems existed before you copied a single file. Ben thinks I ruined the miracle. What does he want? He wants everyone to stop asking him to perform. That sentence became the center of everything. Not the money. Not the gala. Not my public humiliation. A 9-year-old wanted to stop performing his own life. Lucy told me the live special was still moving forward. Serena said critics were trying to silence a mother and that the family would answer darkness with hope. Sponsors had not withdrawn because Northlight had not yet told them the full evidence. Mom changed the plan, Lucy said. How? She says Ben will walk whether you apologize or not. She is going to say the stress made his recovery happen early. Will he do it? He says he has to, or people who donated will hate us. I leaned toward the screen. Tell him this exactly: adults are responsible for what adults promised. He is responsible only for telling the truth when he feels safe. Lucy repeated it slowly. Then she said, Grandma, there is something else. Mom has a backup video blaming Noah. She says he manipulated all the footage because he wanted money. Does Noah know? No. Where is the video? Blue room server. Folder called Bad Apple. Daphne, who was pretending not to listen from across the office, wrote it down. Saturday arrived with clear skies and the ugly energy of a day pretending to be normal. Walk with Ben Live was filmed in Northlight's downtown studio before an audience of 300. The set resembled a bright living room designed by people who had never misplaced anything. Photographs of Ben covered the walls. A curved path crossed the stage from his wheelchair to Serena's chair. Small silver stars marked every step he was expected to take. I arrived at 5 with Nadine. Investigators entered separately. Daphne had a press credential from a weekly newspaper that had not employed her since 1996. Nobody questioned it because she walked as though she owned the printing press. Noah was already in the control room. Arun sat with Northlight's compliance attorney. Carla and the child advocate remained backstage with Ben and Lucy. Serena greeted me near makeup. She wore pale blue. You look tired, she said. I have been receiving career advice from strangers with fish photographs. This could still end gently. For whom? For the children. Then cancel it. Her smile disappeared. You think exposure is protection. You have no idea what happens when millions of people decide a family betrayed them. You invited those millions into Ben's therapy room. I built something that helped people. You also built a cage and taught him to smile inside it. Her eyes filled. This time the tears did not look beautiful. You always hated that I was better at reaching people than you were. I almost laughed. I spent 31 years speaking over cafeteria noise. I have no shortage of reach. You never respected me. That is not true. You respected teachers, nurses, people with proper jobs. When I started posting videos, you called it performing. You were performing. And it paid for Ben's care when institutions failed us. There it was, the true beginning beneath the fraud. She had been a frightened mother with a phone when help came too slowly. People responded. Applause became money. Money became influence. Influence became a reason to keep the crisis alive. I believe you loved him, I said. Her face changed. I love him more than anyone. Then let him stop. She stepped closer. You are going to read the apology. You are going to restore his story. Then you can see him under supervision. And if I do not? She looked toward the stage. Then everyone sees what you said about Robert. For 1 second, grief returned as physical pain. She saw it and mistook pain for surrender. Your voice, she said softly, wishing your husband's life would end. Do you think people will understand context after what you accused me of? Then I thought of Ben asking not to be placed back in a chair. Play it, I said. Serena blinked. What? Play the whole voicemail. You know we do not have the whole thing. I do. Daphne had kept it. Reporters keep strange archives. Best friends keep stranger ones. Serena's face became still. The floor manager called us to places. At 7:58, I saw Ben. He sat in the wheelchair near the stage entrance. A blanket covered his knees even though the studio was warm. Lucy stood beside him. Carla and the advocate remained close. Ben looked at me. I did not ask him to stand. I did not ask him to be brave. I asked, "Do you want a mint?" He nodded. I gave him one from my purse. "That is all?" he whispered. "That is all." Lucy hugged me. Over her shoulder, I saw Michael near the stage. He held a microphone and looked as though he had not slept since Thursday. "Will Dad help?" Lucy asked. "I do not know." The live broadcast began. Serena welcomed viewers with steady warmth. A film showed Ben's illness, therapy, tears, and decline. Dates had been rearranged. Recovery footage was absent. The audience cried on cue without knowing there was a cue. Michael spoke about fathers feeling helpless. His hand never left his wedding ring. At 8:19, Serena introduced me. "Families sometimes hurt one another from fear," she said. "Tonight, Helen has asked to speak honestly." I walked onto the stage. The audience applause was cautious. A teleprompter displayed my apology. "I have allowed grief and confusion to distort my understanding of Ben's condition. I have made unfair accusations against Serena and Michael. I now accept that Ben's journey belongs to his parents." I read the first line. "I have allowed grief and confusion to distort my understanding of Ben's condition." Serena relaxed slightly. I continued. "I was confused because I was shown videos of a child who could not stand, after that child had already begun walking." The teleprompter operator froze. Serena's smile remained, but her eyes moved toward the control room. I said, "I was grieving because the people who loved Ben turned his recovery into a secret that had to wait for a broadcast schedule." Serena stood. "This is not what we agreed." "No," I said. "This is what happened." The screen behind us changed. Noah had loaded the raw rehabilitation footage. Ben crossed the bright room between the parallel rails. The date appeared beneath him. 5 months earlier. The audience went silent. Then came the kitchen clip. Ben carried cereal, stepped over the dog, and danced. Serena shouted toward the control booth. "Cut the feed." Northlight's compliance attorney stepped beside the director. The broadcast remained live. A second clip played. Serena's voice, "Can we do another where he looks less confident?" The therapist's answer, "This is not a film set." Serena walked toward me. "These are private moments stolen from a child." "You made his private moments a series. You are exploiting him now. That is why he is not the evidence." I looked toward the audience. The adults are. The screen displayed the production schedule. 8:34, first steps. Then the Northlight contract requiring that viewers believe Ben could not walk before the special. Then foundation payments to family-controlled companies. The audience began murmuring. Serena turned to Michael. "Say something." He lifted his microphone. For several seconds, nothing came out. Then he said, "Ben began walking independently in February." Serena stared at him. The studio seemed to shrink around that sentence. Michael continued. We continued using the wheelchair in public videos. We told ourselves it protected him and gave us time to end the campaign properly. Serena moved toward him. You are panicking. No. You do this whenever your mother disapproves. He removed his wedding ring. I approved transfers from the foundation. I signed the school note. I knew the first step segment was staged. The audience reacted with a low, wounded sound. Serena's composure broke. We helped thousands of people. Arun's voice came from the front row. You funded 83 verified grants. The rest requires accounting. She looked at him. Who are you? Someone who reads attachments. Daphne coughed to hide a laugh. Serena pointed toward the control room. This was Noah. He manipulated us. He stole footage and tried to extort the foundation. The screen switched to the bad apple folder. A pre-recorded video showed Serena rehearsing that accusation with her attorney and brother. Noah's voice came over the studio speakers. I preserved the project history. The files show who created every edit. Serena looked around for an exit that was not surrounded by cameras. Then she saw Ben. He remained backstage in the chair, visible through the open curtain. Sweetheart, she called, come to mommy. The floor manager glanced at Carla. Carla did not move him. Ben looked at his mother. Then he looked at the silver stars across the stage. The audience waited for the miracle they had purchased. I wanted to pick him up and carry him somewhere without lights. Instead, I stayed still. The choice had to become his again. Ben pushed the blanket aside. He stood. The audience gasped. Serena opened her arms, automatically finding her camera angle. Ben did not walk to her. He turned toward Lucy. She met him at the curtain, took his hand, and they walked away from the stage together. No music played. No camera followed. That was the first honest step of the evening. Serena watched them disappear. For a moment, she looked less like a villain than a woman who had mistaken an audience for a family and only now realized the audience could leave. Then the investigators approached. She recovered enough to ask whether she was being arrested on live television. The prosecutor answered, "You are being asked to remain while we execute warrants and secure records." Daphne whispered, "Television loves precise verbs." The broadcast ended 3 minutes early. Northlight replaced it with a documentary about penguins. For the next week, America cared deeply about both child exploitation and penguins. The legal story took months. The family story took longer. Investigators found that Brighter Miles had begun honestly. Its first year funded real transportation, therapy support, and equipment grants. Serena and Michael had helped families who otherwise received nothing. Then the foundation began paying their companies, their debts, and their lifestyle. Some expenses were legal but undisclosed. Others were false. Donation appeals continued after Ben's medical team documented his recovery. The Northlight advance had been diverted. Records were altered. My voice had been fabricated to influence a court and public opinion. Serena pleaded guilty to wire fraud, obstruction, and misuse of charitable funds. She received a prison sentence, restitution obligations, and a prohibition against managing charities involving children. Michael cooperated early. He pleaded guilty to financial charges and falsifying records. He served a shorter sentence partly in home confinement, followed by probation. The court did not call fear a defense, but it considered his confession, his cooperation, and the evidence he preserved after the broadcast. Serena's brother returned part of the money and faced separate charges. The attorney who helped prepare the false Noah video lost clients before he lost anything official. Northlight canceled the documentary and surrendered the remaining contract funds. Sponsors demanded audits. Insurance covered some losses. The lake house was sold. Related companies were dissolved. Brighter Miles did not disappear. An independent board took control under court supervision. Arun became temporary financial advisor and complained that every meeting offered muffins but no readable spreadsheets. The foundation published every grant, vendor, and conflict of interest. It stopped using Ben's name. The new name was Open Road Assistance. Ben chose it. He said roads were better than journeys because people could use them without being filmed. The recovered money funded transportation and home access projects for families. No miracle videos were required. Lucy and Ben lived with me temporarily after the broadcast. Their placement was reviewed, supervised, and far less dramatic than strangers online imagined. I underwent background checks, home visits, and a pantry inspection that revealed I owned 4 expired cans of soup. Carla looked at the dates. "Do you plan to eat these?" "Not after this interrogation." The children's first week in my house was quiet. Lucy slept until noon. Ben woke before 6 and sat at the kitchen table without asking for a camera. On the third morning, he spilled orange juice and froze. I gave him a towel. "That is all?" he asked. "That is all." He cleaned it. Then he began crying. Not because of the juice. Because accidents in his old house often became lessons, posts, or evidence of resilience. Ordinary mistakes had lost the right to remain ordinary. I sat beside him. "You do not have to turn this into anything," I said. He nodded against my shoulder. Lucy struggled differently. She had spent years reading comments about her family and months secretly preserving evidence. She did not trust praise. When a teacher called her brave, she stopped turning in assignments for a week. "Brave is what adults call you when they are relieved you handled something they should have handled," she told me. She was not wrong. Therapy helped, though she hated that everyone described it as part of healing. She said healing sounded like another series title. We called it Tuesday. Every Tuesday, she met with someone who did not record her. Ben returned to school under a privacy plan. He used mobility support when tired because recovery truly was not linear. The difference was that the decision belonged to him and his care team, not a content calendar. He joined a robotics club instead of sports because the robots did not ask personal questions. His first machine moved in circles and knocked over a trash can. He named it Serena. I made him choose another name. He chose Kevin. Michael wrote letters from custody. The first ones contained too many explanations. He described pressure, debt, Serena's ambition, the foundation's real work, and his fear of disappointing everyone. Lucy returned them unopened. Ben asked me to read his aloud, then interrupted every time Michael used the phrase "things got out of control." "Things don't get control," he said. "People give it." That sounded like something Daphne would say, which worried me. Months later, Michael wrote a shorter letter. "I knew you could walk. I knew Grandma's recording was false. I knew Lucy was telling the truth. I chose the plan anyway because I was afraid of losing the life built around the lie. I am sorry. I will not ask you to forgive me on my schedule." Lucy read that one twice. Ben placed it in his desk. Neither answered immediately. Accountability is not a family reunion with better lighting. It is the long period after the truth where nobody receives applause for doing what should have happened first. A year after the broadcast, Serena asked to send the children letters through their therapist. The court allowed carefully supervised contact. Her first letter to Ben said she loved him and missed him. Her second said she was sorry the campaign became bigger than his needs. Her third finally said the sentence he had been waiting for. "I told you to sit when you wanted to stand. I made you responsible for adults' promises. That was wrong. He did not forgive her that day. He did not tear up the letter either. 2 years after the gala, Open Road held a small fundraiser at a public library. Families spoke about buses, ramps, school access, and paperwork. Some shared personal stories. Others did not. Ben attended because there was a robotics demonstration. Lucy operated the sound system and threatened to mute any adult who used the phrase "inspiring journey" more than twice. Michael came under the terms of his supervised release. It was the first time all three of us had stood in the same room since the broadcast. He looked thinner, older, more like my son and less like the man on the beige couch. Ben saw him first. Michael did not open his arms. He waited. Ben walked over and stopped several feet away. "Are you going to ask me how walking is going?" "No," Michael said. "Good." They stood in silence. Then Ben pointed toward the robot table. "Kevin, 2 consort blocks." "I would like to see that." "That is not forgiveness." "I know. It is a robot." "I understand." Ben led him across the room. Lucy remained beside me. "You okay?" I asked. "No," she said. "But I am here." Sometimes that is the honest version of okay. Serena did not attend. She remained in prison then, and the children were not ready for an in-person visit. She sent no video message. That was progress. At the end of the fundraiser, the library director thanked everyone and invited Ben to demonstrate Kevin too. He approached the microphone, considered the audience, and moved it away. "I don't want to explain myself," he said. The director nodded. Ben pressed a button. The robot sorted 3 blue blocks, 1 red block, and then pushed the entire tray off the table. The room laughed. Ben laughed too. No sad music played. That night, after the children went to bed, I opened the drawer where I kept the gold medal from the gala. "Voice of courage," it said. For a long time, I had hated it. It represented the night strangers applauded a lie while my grandson hid behind a curtain. But the medal had also carried Lucy's memory card. Objects are not loyal to the people who make them. Sometimes they change sides. I placed it beside Robert's photograph. Daphne once asked whether I considered the live broadcast revenge. I did not. Revenge would have been editing Serena's worst moments into a perfect story and selling tickets. What happened was more difficult. We showed enough truth to stop the lie, then protected the parts of the children that did not belong to the public. We allowed good work from a corrupt foundation to remain good without pretending it erased the corruption. We let Michael confess without calling confession redemption. We let Serena begin telling the truth without demanding that the children reward her for it. And we let Ben walk when he wanted, sit when he needed, and cross rooms without anyone counting the steps. People still recognized him occasionally. Some asked for photographs. He learned to say no. Some told him he had inspired them. He learned to answer, "I was 9." Lucy learned to turn off comments. Michael learned that a father cannot rebuild trust by explaining the pressure that made him break it. Serena learned, slowly and far from cameras, that love does not become purer because millions of people watch you perform it. And I learned that protecting a family is not the same as protecting its image. Images require lighting, angles, and control. Families require truth, boundaries, and the humility to stop speaking when a child says the story is not yours. The last clip on Lucy's memory card was not evidence anyone used. It showed Ben alone in the kitchen on the morning he first walked without help. He moved carefully from the table to the doorway. Lucy filmed from far away. When he reached the door, she whispered, Do you want me to tell Mom? Ben thought for a moment. Then he said, not yet. I want one thing that is just ours. Lucy lowered the camera immediately. The recording ended with the floor. That was the moment I returned to most. Not the gala. Not the confession. Not the investigators walking toward Serena beneath studio lights. A sister asked permission. A brother answered. And when he asked for privacy, she stopped recording. No audience applauded. No sponsor placed a logo beneath it. No adult explained what it meant. It belonged to them. At last, something did.